This is round 15 of the 2024 PACE NSC. If I could get names and a buzzer check starting on my left.
David Black. Ben Newman.
Sean Syed.
Jonathan.
Kevin.
Rohan.
Edward.
Jeffrey.
All right.
Not yours,
My name
sir.
is Ryan. I'll be reading this man.
I'm Mike. I'm smoking.
Let's go.
All right.
Come on.
We will begin with toss-up 1. The first prize is awarded by this country's prestigious JINR Institute went to Chinese scientist Wang Ganchang. Scientists in this country once claimed to have discovered a substance called polywater. A scientist working in this country advanced Maturism, a Lamarckian doctrine that vernalization was more important than natural selection. In the 1940s, 9 scientists in this country starved to death.
Russia.
That is 20.
Good place. Good place.
No, I knew the previous clue. It was
In January 2024, billionaire Bill Ackman clashed with Business Insider over Business Insider's allegations that Ackman's wife, Mary Oxman, was guilty of this practice. For 10 points each, name this practice. Ackman publicized allegations that Claudine Gay had engaged in this practice, forcing Gay out of a high-profile job.
Maybe
No,
it is insider trading, I think. Insider trading.
Plagiarism.
Okay.
Gay was forced to resign from her post as president of this Ivy League university that Mark Zuckerberg briefly attended.
Harvard.
Following the Gay scandal, a member of this family, who's chair of the Harvard board, was pressured to resign. A politician from this family used his wealth from the Hyatt fortune to get elected governor in
Pritzker.
2018.
Pritzker.
Last
Nice.
20.
Let's go.
Toss-up 2. Gravity-powered harvesting of this phenomenon can be accomplished with thin meshes like shade cloth. This phenomenon names deserts that are dominantly supplied by its drip. When this phenomenon coincides with forest fires, it can be super. A low-altitude temperature inversion causes the true leaf example of this phenomenon's radiation type, which depletes via burn-off. Wind passing over a cold surface can use the advection type of this phenomenon. This phenomenon dampens high frequencies, so horns used in its presence typically use a low pitch. This phenomenon can arise from low-lying stratus clouds. For 10 points, name this phenomenon that mixes with smoke to form...
Like fog?
10.
Is that smog? It's just smog. Yeah, it is.
That was
the last one.
bonus. This galaxy is connected to the Triangulum galaxy by a stream of hydrogen that may indicate a past interaction. For 10 points each, in the second largest spiral galaxy in the local group, which will merge with the Milky Way in 4 to 5 billion years.
Andromeda.
This component of the Milky Way was likely created by a merger early in its history. This hypothetical component is home to older stars and contains a smaller, similarly named component.
It's like,
The great something.
I don't know.
Greater.
Answer?
The Great Arm.
It's the thick disk, which contains the thin disk. Edwin Hubble showed that Andromeda is a distinct galaxy by observing these stars. These variable stars are useful as standard candles due to their time period luminosity relation.
It's like Cepheid. Cepheid.
First and last for 20, toss up 3. While dying of breast cancer, an author with this surname wrote about her affair with Catherine Peabody Loring. That author with this surname may have inspired a character created by her brother, who delivers a feminist lecture and moves in with Olive Chancellor, the cousin of a...
James.
That's
Good
20.
buzz.
An essay by Iris Marion Young discusses how pregnancy blurs the line between this concept and the external world. For 10 points each, in this concept contrasted with the mind and Cartesian dualism.
Body.
Body.
Young cites this philosopher's claim that pregnancy is experienced as the splitting of the subject. This Bulgarian-born philosopher developed the concept of abjection and powers of horror.
Something ask you. I don't ask you. I don't ask you.
It's Julia Kristeva. Young argues that pregnancy undermines the distinction between transcendence and immanence, contrasting this book's description of a group doomed to immanence and barred from transcendence. This book includes sections on facts and myths and lived experience.
Maybe like the second sex.
I think so.
The second sex.
Last person last for 20. Toss up 4. Grave goods unearthed at Canossa show one of these creatures holding a zither, suggesting their role as guardians and psychopomps. Aphrodite saved Butes from these creatures, who were made into crowns following a failed challenge instigated by Hera. Demeter transfigured these handmaidens of Persephone, who reside on a corpse-laden island near the Strait of Messina, and its 2 monsters. These creatures...
The sirens?
20.
Good buzz. Good buzz.
That was kind of fun. Yeah.
Drops are collected during this technique in the receiving flask whenever the temperature plateaus. For 10 points each, in this technique whose laboratory apparatus consists of a round-bottomed glass flask immersed in a mantle attached to a tall glass column with a cold finger on top that leads to the receiving flask.
Distillation. It's sauce, right? Distillation.
Yeah. The first drop collected in the distillate is the chemical with the lowest value for this temperature since it vaporizes first.
This temperature, boiling point.
Yeah.
Boiling point.
Exact term required. Rashid rings and ceramic saddles are used as this type of material in both lab scale and industrial distillation columns. These materials give up purer products by reducing the vapor flow rate.
In trainer. Directed.
It's column packing, or a packed column. So that is 20 for the first two, toss up 5. John Sweller's CLT criticizes constructivist approaches in these places, such as those favored by Jerome Bruner. Carol Dweck first made a distinction between entity and incremental theorists to describe people in these places. To design objectives, workers at these places may use a pyramid of 6 goals called Bloom's taxonomy.
Schools?
20.
Good luck.
Jai Singh II, the first Sawai of Jaipur, translated Euclid's elements into Sanskrit and relied on a zij created by Muhammad Shah Rangila to construct one of these buildings. For 10 points each in these facilities, examples of which include Jaipur's Jansar Mansar
It's a temple.
Sikh temple.
You just say it's a temple.
Observatory.
Oh.
This Mughal emperor conferred the title Sawai on Jai Singh II. This emperor locked away his father Shah Jahan and reinstituted the jizya.
Aurangzeb.
Jai Singh also created one of these objects known as Jaivana, which was used only during a demonstration to Muhammad Shah. The Hungarian engineer Urbana built one of these weapons known as the Basilic that brought down Constantinople's walls in 1453.
Cannons.
That's 20.
Nice.
Toss up 6. This king largely avoided his capital after Parisians rioted on rumors that officials were harvesting the blood of children to treat leprosy. Although this monarch founded the École Militaire, his troops under the Prince of Soubise were humiliated by the Prussians at the Battle of Rossbach. This monarch's father-in-law, Stein.
Louis the 15th.
Nice.
Good buzz.
I frauded that for
Ukrainian composer Nikolai Tiletsky's 1677 treatise Grammatica introduced the first known version of this diagram. For 10 points each, name this diagram. Notes separated by a tritone appear on opposite sides of this diagram.
Circle fifths.
One of the first internationally recognized Ukrainian composers was Vasyl Barvinsky, who wrote a Ukrainian piece of this type. A clarinet glissando opens a George Gershwin piece of this type for piano and jazz band.
Rhapsody.
Kiev-born composer Reinhold Glier wrote a modern E-flat major concerto for this instrument. Germaine Taillefer wrote a concertino for this instrument and dedicated her sonata for it to Nicanor Zavaleta. Answer?
French horn.
Harp.
They already have French horn. It's fine.
20 for the first two, toss up 7. This quantity for a chemical equals its generation minus consumption term in a mole balance. Langmuir-Hinchelwood theory assumes this quantity equals the number of occupied adsorption sites times turnover number. If 1 over this quantity is plotted against 1 over concentration, the x-insert step is minus 1 over the Michaelis constant.
It's like number of active sites.
No. This quantity times the stoichiometric coefficient equals the time derivative of molarity in the differential form of its empirical law. This quantity plateaus at Vmax as the concentration of substrates increases. This quantity equals the constant K times concentration to the n for an nth order reaction. For 10 points, catalysts increase what property of a chemical reaction?
Rate.
10.
Yes.
A Louis Menand essay on how to misread this author cites her sister Cassandra burning their letters as a reason for lack of biographical insight. For 10 points each, name this author. Menand notes how Elizabeth Bennet misreads Mr. Darcy in this author's novel, Pride and Prejudice.
Austin.
Menand refutes claims of Austin as apolitical by analyzing how the enclosure of land in this novel leads thieves to steal Mrs. Weston's turkeys. Mr. Knightley later marries the title character of this novel.
Emma.
Menand closes by highlighting the little provisions the Austins had after the death of Jane's father George, who had this profession. An Austen character with this profession desires to set an example of matrimony by marrying Elizabeth Bennet, gets rejected, and then turns to Charlotte.
Wait.
Probably soldier. Soldier?
Priest.
Whatever.
Collins.
That's fine. Come on.
That is 20 for the first two, toss up 8. Haydn's 82nd Symphony earned its nickname by imitating a form of this instrument associated with dancing bears. Gavottes may be extended with a section named after a type of this instrument called the musette. The Galician gaita is one of these instruments, another type of which may play pibroch tunes and was once classified as a weapon of war. It's not an oboe, but pastoral.
Bagpipe?
20.
No, good boys. Wait, you're cooking. This is crazy.
Dirk van Laberen inspired this artist's depiction of a black-robed sex worker in his painting The Procuress. For For 10 points each, name this artist. In 2022, the National Gallery of Art determined that Girl with a Flute was probably not painted by this artist, reducing the total number of surviving works by this artist of the music lesson to about 35.
Wait, it's Vermeer.
Vermeer reproduced Babaren's The Procurist in his painting The Concert, but has been missing since it was stolen from this museum in 1990. This Boston museum also
Isabella
houses the
Stewart
Rape of
Gardner.
Europa.
Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum.
Babaren was a member of an Utrecht-based school of artists known for their admiration of this Italian master who painted the Column of St. Matthew.
Caravaggio.
At 30. Toss up 9. One person in this work interprets a hairpin in dish soap as a premonition that another character will return to him. That character hallucinates about walking back from ancestral Africa for 300 years in this work after he ties cinder blocks to his feet in an abortive treasure-finding scheme. In this work, Ma Kleeman follows up
Omarus.
20.
Good buzz.
Ma Kleeman. In the 1950s, a popular joke held that this organization's purpose was to keep the Russians out, the Americans in, and the Germans down. For 10 points each, identify this military alliance. Dwight Eisenhower served as its first supreme commander.
NATO.
NATO's founding signer, Robert Schuman, was instrumental in forming this economic alliance between France, West Germany, Italy, and the Benelux nations that was named for two commodities.
The European Coal and Steel Commission.
European Coal and Steel Community.
I put that one last time too.
In 1998, Bill Clinton designated this country as a major non-NATO ally. This country's economy cratered following the neoliberal Menemism period in the late 1990s.
Is that Portugal?
1990s. Sure.
Portugal.
It's Argentina. 10 for the first part, toss up 10. This leader withdrew his country from the Court of Human Rights following a dispute with TV station owner Baruch Ifshar. TV crews routinely captured this leader in the north of his country, personally directing flood relief during a particularly bad El Nino season in 1997. Under the campaign of Change 90, this former engineer won a surprise election over a future Nobel Prize-winning author. The magazine Caritas kicked off a birther scandal by revealing that this leader had not been born in Miraflores. After reorganizing his country's military, this leader's government captured Abimael Guzman, the leader of
Fujimori.
Oh, the author was.
I knew it was Peru, but I didn't know I thought it was
This language, whose name means well-made, was used for the oldest surviving linguistic treatise. For 10 points each, name this language, which was also used to write epics like the Ramayana and Mahabharata.
Oh, Sanskrit. Yeah, Sanskrit.
The oldest surviving linguistic treatise, the Astadhyayi, was written by this ancient author. This author employed a recursive meta-language to describe every aspect of Sanskrit grammar.
No idea.
This name sounds right out there.
Kalidasa.
No, it's Panini. Panini used the grammatical marker lun to denote the aorist type of this linguistic feature. Latin usually combines this linguistic feature with grammatical aspect and has 6 of these features in the indicative mood.
Tones. Tense.
Extra tense.
Tense.
Yep, that's correct. First and last for 20. At the half, I have 370 for Johns Creek, 0 for Unilab. Toss up 11. This character was played by Paul Scofield in a stark 1962 Beckett-inspired production by Peter Brook. An actor playing this character collapses while repeating the line, "The ring goes to it," in the opening of Station 11. This character...
Peter.
That's 20.
What the heck? Nice.
A society for female cigar smokers is named for this author, who is known for wearing male clothing without a permit. For 10 points each, name this author of rustic novels like The Devil's Pool and Francois de Champy. The protagonist escapes her elderly husband, Colonel Delmare, and runs away with Ralph de Réunion in her novel Indiana.
Sand.
This author of Les Mis said that Sand was an idea and a great woman in his eulogy for her.
Hugo.
Yeah.
In a novel by this author, the narrator's mother lulls him to sleep by reading Francois de Champy and kissing him goodnight. That novel by this author begins, "For a long time I went to bed early."
Proust.
That is 30. Toss up 12. The Afghani Dari language refers to these things with the Arabic names of certain constellations. As told by the Surah At-Tawbah, polytheists practicing Nasik manipulatively postponed 4 sacred instances of these things to justify fighting. Rajab is among the 4 sacred instances of these things. These divisions...
Months?
That's 20. Taiwanese men race to grab flags and offerings at the top of greased towers during grappling ceremonies meant to scare off beings named for having this trait. For 10 points each, give this trait used to describe certain animalistically emotional Chinese ghosts appeased during the Zhongyuan festival, which is alternatively named in English for this kind of ghost.
Vengeful.
Yeah, sir.
Vengeful.
It's hungry.
Hungry, yeah.
Oh my god.
During the Zhongyuan festival, these paper objects are set adrift on rivers to guide hungry ghosts with their lights.
Yeah, lanterns.
During the Zhongyuan festival, celebrants burn effigies of the king of hell, Da Shi Ye, as well as the merciful goddess Guan Yin, who is seen as one of these figures. These figures remain behind to help others achieve enlightenment.
Bodhisattva.
That is last two for 20.
Go get that from the OSP.
Toss up 13. A culture that made cicadas from this material also used it to plug the 9 orifices of a corpse. The so-called New Zealand form of this material was known by the Maori as ponumu. This material is used to depict a were-jaguar on the Olmec.
Jade.
That is 20.
That's so true.
That's what which is the cicada thing.
In 2023, Will Ratcliffe's lab evolved snowflake yeast with this trait to grow 20,000 times bigger than wild-type yeast. For 10 points each, in this property possessed by all fungi except yeast, when food is scarce, slime molds switch to this trait and form fruiting bodies.
Yeah, I think so. Like anaerobic.
It's multicellular. The size of single cells is capped by the need to keep this parameter above an inverse micron. Allen's rule says that this ratio is smaller for animals in cold climates.
Like
Gender ratio.
Answer.
yeah, gender.
It's surface area to volume ratio.
Smaller.
A really long single cell is impractical because it imposes too much stress on this cellular network of microfilaments and microtubules. Analogous to human bones, this structure provides shape and support to the cell membrane.
Oh my god, it's like they said microfilaments, right? Like
Answer.
microtubule.
It's cytoskeleton. Nothing on the bonus. Toss up 14. Joe Brazil's recording of this album, performed live in Seattle, was released by Impulse Records in 2021. Art Davis and Archie Shepp appear on an alternate take of this album's opening track that emits a vocal chant. On this album's opening track,
I love Scream.
20.
That's a really good.
Snowflake yeast.
Colic mold's dominance is evidenced by the widespread distributions of its emblem glyph depicting this animal. For 10 points each, what creatures appeared in smoke and Mayan visions during bloodletting rituals? An Aztec deity represented by this animal created man using bones from Mictlan.
Is this Quetzals? Yeah, Quetzals.
It's a serpent.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess Quetzalcoatl was represented by a serpent, or a feathered serpent. El Castillo is alternatively known as the temple of this Mayan feathered serpent, sometimes conflated with Cucumatz and Quetzalcoatl, a legendary king with this deity's name found in the city of Mayapan.
He's gonna go for it.
Answer. It's Kukulkan.
Okay.
The Quiche feathered serpent Cucutzmatz creates the world at the beginning of the Popol Vuh, which tells the story of Xbalanque and Hunahpu, who have this relation. Castor and Pollux have this relation.
Father and son. Yeah.
Father and son.
And they're twins.
Wait.
That's what I said.
Castor.
So nothing on the bonus, toss at 15. The energy spectra of these particles are measured with plastic-covered spears of BF3 named Tom W. Bonner.
Neutron.
20.
I couldn't remember this against like
787 names are inscribed on a wall in Meligalis, the site of a bloody battle in this country. For 10 points each, name this country where the communist ELAS guerrillas attempted to overthrow the British-backed monarchy of King Paul. The Truman Doctrine grew out of a response to this country's civil war.
Truman. Angola.
It's Greece. The war erupted following a series of anti-communist riots known by this name. This name was also given to a series of pogroms and anti-Bolshevik killings during the Russian Civil War.
Red Scare.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think so. It's not.
Answer.
Red Scare.
It's the White Terror. The Greek communists were initially supported by this Yugoslavian leader who split with Stalin
this
over
is
non-alignment.
Tito.
That's 10 for the last part. Toss up 16.
Sorry.
A road in this region's steeple brink is named for legendary smuggler Cruel Coppinger. In 1839, 47,000 pounds worth of Brazilian gold dust was stolen from this region's port of Falmouth. In this region,
Cornwall.
20.
Dang,
That's a good buzz.
It's like southwestern.
By definition, anharmonic oscillators deviate from this statement. For 10 points each, name this law that states that force equals the negative spring constant times displacement.
Hooke's law.
Though pendulums are anharmonic oscillators, their motion is approximated by that of harmonic oscillators because, for small angle theta, 1 minus 1/2 theta squared is approximately equal to this function of theta.
One is probably sine.
Go for it.
Or square root. I don't know, sine.
Cosine. An anharmonic oscillator whose potential is a small fourth-degree term is an introductory example to this theory. This theory decomposes the Hamiltonian with one of a similar solved system in order to approximate solutions to the Schrödinger equation.
Born Oppenheimer. Direct.
It's perturbation theory. 10 for the first part, toss up 17. While working to enforce this policy, Richard Two-Gun Hart was pitted against his younger brothers. Attempts to circumvent this policy led to people developing Jake leg syndrome. Enforcement of this policy was the cause of tensions that led to the violent Pineapple Primary. This policy was weakened by the Blaine Act and Cullen Act.
Prohibition.
20.
That was so fun.
A Franklin Tricchia and Andrew Du Bois essay collection titled For This Technique examines R.P. Blackmore's rating of Wallace Stevens. For 10 points each, name this literary technique emphasized by new critics in which a piece of text is meticulously read for structure and language and then interpreted.
This is close reading, I think. Close reading.
The collection contains John Crow Ransom's essay on the 10 unrhymed lines and 11 unequal stanzas of this elegy in which a drowned genius of the shore wanders the perilous flood.
Country questions.
Answer?
Titanus.
It's Lycidas. Another essay on John Keats as a Sylvan historian examines whether the phrase beauty is truth, truth beauty diminishes an ode about this title object, which is called an unravished bride of quietness.
Grecian norm.
First and last for 20, toss up 18. The prototypical cation pi interaction in biology binds this molecule to the tryptophan in a ligand-gated ion channel.
It's magnesium.
Incorrect. This compound's succinyl derivative, or antagonist of its receptors like vecuronium, are administered before endotracheal intubation as a paralytic. Organophosphate poisoning prevents the hydrolysis of an ester bond in this quaternary amine. Nightshade toxins like scopolamine, atropine, muscarine, and nicotine bind to receptors for this compound.
Acetylcholine.
10.
Yep.
Answer the following by John Pinter, the financier and founder of several historical societies, for 10 points each. Pinter lobbied for this holiday, which was later embraced by the Italian American community. Many municipalities celebrate Indigenous Peoples' Day instead of this holiday.
Yeah, Columbus Day.
Columbus Day.
Pinter helped draft the constitution for this organization. A leader of this organization was depicted with a money bag for a head by cartoonist Thomas Nast.
Yeah, it is. Tammany Hall.
Pinter co-founded the American Bible Society, whose early efforts included translation of the Bible into these people's language. These people lost control of land in the Walking Treaty.
Cherokee.
Lenape.
Nice.
It's like this.
Yes, they're going to toss up 19. In one poem, this type of animal is teased with a pipe stem and is described as once so beautiful but now so funny and ugly. In that poem, this type of animal is exiled among hoots and jeers, but formerly laughed at the archer. This prince of cloud and sky.
Albatross.
20.
Nice.
Onion-shaped examples of these architectural features were created to resemble burning candles or prevent the accumulation of snow. For 10 points each, in these architectural features, which often top cathedrals such as St. Basil's.
Dome.
Onion domes have a larger diameter than these often cylindrical supporting sections that lie beneath the dome. The Hagia Sophia's dome lacks one of these sections and instead lies directly on its pendentives.
It's not a normal name.
It's like buttress.
It's not buttress, but
Answer?
buttress.
It's a drum. 8 interlaced arches create a tulip-shaped onion dome in this city, surrounded by 4 pavilions called chhatris. A red sandstone fort named for this city surrounds Charbagh-inspired gardens.
Is Amritsar?
I thought
Yeah.
it was Aqua.
Answer?
Amritsar?
What is it?
Amritsar?
No, it's Agra.
Oh, shit.
Bro,
Isn't the Golden Temple?
Yeah.
Right. Toss up 20. This artist appears seated holding cards in a painting by a contemporary whose studio was a short walk from this artist. In a painting by this artist, a dog sits across from a young girl reclining in a blue armchair. In a painting by...
Cassatt?
20. Roger Angell wrote about the insane admixture of prodigality and thrift of David Cohn in a book on this activity. For 10 points each, name this activity that Roy Hobbs participates in with an object called Wonder Boy in a 1952 novel.
Baseball?
This author pioneered the field of participatory journalism in sports writing such as Shadowbox and Paper Lion. This man also founded the literary magazine, The Paris Review.
I don't know.
Goncourt.
It's George Plimpton. The Paris Review interviewed this author, who described how Mrs. Helm had a revelation that a radio was missing when looking through Kenyon Clutter's old baseball gear in a section of his book, In Cold Blood. He also wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Code.
That is first and last for 20. Final score, Union Lab 170, Johns Creek 540.
Yeah,
Good game
that's
both teams.
Better than that.
Thank you for your interview.